Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Ute Dash. As always, I am Sammy Mora, one of your hosts for the evening, and I'm joined by my jacket buddy,
Twins.
Cole Bagley. Cole, how are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. Rough night for Utah men's basketball, but I'm getting over it and pushing through because of the big football news that we got yesterday.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. Devin Lloyd is coming back, guys. Can we get a round of applause for that for Devin Lloyd?
I'll give it up for that.
Give it up for Devin Lloyd coming back for technically his second junior season, but I think we both can agree it will be his final season at Utah no matter what. Because we talked about it a lot. We thought that he was going to be the one junior that was like.
I thought he'd be the only player.
Yeah, I thought he was. Yeah, I know. I agree. He was the only player I thought was going to go to the NFL. But I'm excited. I'm glad he's coming back. It gives this defense. This defense is going to be insane, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean Lloyd, like we were talking about, I thought he was the one player that had every reason to enter the NFL draft, despite the short, 5 game season. There just wasn't really anybody else that I felt like did themselves a favor and increased their draft stock or really caught the attention of any NFL scouts, and that wasn't necessarily their own fault.
They were dealing with the hand they were dealt. You were playing 5 games.
Bad situation. Yeah. Bad situation. But Lloyd made the most of it, and I thought that he had every reason to go. So it'll be interesting to see and to hear why he decided to come back. Maybe it has something to do with the passing of Ty Jordan, wanting to play in his honor and just the whole team, maybe to tribute the 2021 season to him, run it back. But it's exciting. So just to give you an idea of how good Devin is and why we thought he might go to the NFL, this was Pac-12 All-Conference first-team player, Butt Kiss Award finalist, started all 5 games, led the team in total tackles with 48 and tackles for loss with 10, adding 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 1 quarterback hurry, 3 double-digit tackle games, ranked 8th in the FBS and 5th in the Pac-12 in solo tackles per game with 6.6, second in the FBS and the Pac-12 in tackles for loss per game with 2, and 5th in the Pac-12 in total tackles per game, 9.6. He had every reason to do it, but I'm excited and stoked that he is deciding to stay at Utah.
I will say when I saw, I was on Twitter last night, as one does. I was scrolling and I saw this video and I said, oh, it's from Devin. This is probably his announcement that he's leaving. And I click on it. I should have read because it said one last ride. So that's on me. That's my bad for not reading. But I click on the video and I was like, is it happening? It's happening. And I think it's so funny because my mom and I were literally talking about it yesterday morning about if he was going to declare or not. So I'm just happy. I'm happy he's coming back because if you really think about it, the 3 people Utah could have lost to the draft if they had fantastic seasons are all coming back. You get Keithy back, you get Ford back, you get Lloyd back. Plus, you don't lose anybody. So this Utah defense that was really starting to hit its stride at the end of last season is going to be back. Okay, yes, you're going to have some little substitutions. Nate Ritchie won't be on the he'll be on the team, but he will be on his mission, so he won't be on the field. You slide RJ Hubert back into that safety spot, and you're fine. You have a really good defense.
Yep. Well, you got Nephi Sewell, you got Clark Phillips, you got a couple new freshmen.
Calvert's coming in. Like, this Utah defense is going to be fantastic. And then you have the offense. Okay, yes, we still have a couple of question marks, like mainly running back and quarterback. But at the end of the day, you have all of your key pieces still on your offense too. Like, Utah is going to run this back this year. I do not see how any other team in the Pac-12 can hold up to where Utah's at. Look at USC. USC is taking hit after hit after hit with people going into the NFL draft. Utah could have had the same situation, but they didn't because all 3 of them, the ones that wanted to come back, are coming back. I don't see how any team, like, yes, there's been some big, like, people staying for other teams, like Nate Landman's coming back for Colorado. Arizona has some key pieces coming back, same with UCLA and Arizona State. But Arizona State's also taken some hits too. So Honestly, I don't see how anyone could not favor Utah for the Pac-12 South next year. I'm not going to say Pac-12 in general, like overall, because I still think Washington's going to be the biggest hurdle Utah has to cross next year because they are bringing back so many people. Also, they're in the same kind of boat as Utah. They had people who could leave, but they decided not to. But the South, I think, is Utah's to lose. You have,
for sure.
I'm just thinking about all of the possibilities of everything.
The elephant in the room, Jake Bentley's gone, and he's the biggest reason that we lost those 2 games to USC and to Washington. And let's also note that
I would take the Washington blame less on Bentley and more on the defense just not showing up the second half.
But the offense didn't score a single point in the second half.
Okay, true, but
one of the biggest contributing factors, I'd say.
There was multiple factors that went into that loss. But I'm not going to put Bentley as the main one, is what I'll say.
Okay. Well, I will. The elephant in the room, he's gone. And you have some fantastic, competition at the quarterback position with, hopefully Cam Rising is healthy and looking as good. You have those transfers that are going to be coming in. So quarterback, you don't really have to worry about. And then obviously all the other weapons returning. The only question mark really is that running back spot. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, it's really sad that Ty Jordan won't be running for Utah because of just that tragic thing that took place in December. But it is Utah's to lose because the defense hit their stride. Elephant in the room is gone. You're returning the vast majority of the offensive weapons. There's no reason that Utah shouldn't take the Pac-12 South, and their only 2 losses came because to the arguably the 2 best teams. Obviously Oregon won it all, but they only got to play because Washington couldn't. And then USC won the South. So their only 2 losses coming to arguably the 2 of the 3 best teams in the entire Pac-12. And then the other games that were close, like Washington State and like Colorado, they're only close for a little while. And it was as soon as the team figured themselves out in those games, they weren't close anymore.
Also, I would just like to address the fact that we'll have a new punter next year. That's huge because we've had, Ben Lennon was supposed to be like the next Ray Guy Award winner, blah, blah, blah. He was supposed to be the greatest thing ever. And he just didn't pan out. I know that at the end of the day,
I've ever seen. I don't know.
I understand that yes, kickers are people too. I know that's a big thing that everyone says. But at the end of the day, you need to have a good kicker. And I don't worry about Jaden Redding. Jaden Redding, I'm you go out there, you kick that field goal because I trust in him. But every time Ben Lennon went on the field this year, I literally was like, okay, is it going to go 10 yards or is it going to go 11 yards? And I think in the one game that March played in, he played in the Washington State game, he took a huge hit first and foremost and drew that roughing the kicker penalty that led to another Utah score.
Yep.
And then he was averaging his season average on punts. I understand it was one game, was longer. He had longer punts than Ben Lennon had all season long.
Well, kickers are underrated, They
are. I mean, they could change the momentum of a game. People don't talk about that enough, and I just would like to bring that up.
Exactly. So,
but this Utah team, love it.
They're looking set. The only spot that they're going to have to figure out is the running back position. Maybe we'll see, Brumfield or Wilmore decide to come back. Who knows? Only time will tell. Or we might get some.
There's still the transfer portal.
Transfer portal's open. And was it Bernard?
Yeah, Mackay has been doing work. Yeah. The day he got home from Utah, he went back home. He was working out in California, and I said, "Good on you, bud."
Well, I think he's really talented, but he was overshadowed by Ty Jordan. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Also, we have Ricky Parks coming in, our freshman running back that we signed this class. So Utah fans shouldn't worry about the running back position. I know that it's tragic and it's something that we never thought we'd have to grapple with was the situation that Utah has went through.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we say on the show all the time, in Wit we trust. This guy knows what he's doing. And he'll get it done. Utah fans, I understand I haven't seen a lot of people worried about it, but at the same time, like it is something that needs to be addressed, and I think the program will address it. It's just be patient. Like,
well, it's really fresh, you know.
Everything will work out in the end.
Yeah,
just like always with Utah.
It's Ty's funeral was earlier this week, so it's still really fresh. I don't think there's any reason. The season is so far away. There's no reason to do anything about it now. And like he talked about, we'll make something happen. And the Pac-12,
watch out.
I think that it's Utah's to lose. The entire Pac-12 is theirs to lose.
I want to see how Washington looks. I know they're losing some key pieces. So I'm not gonna jump to Utah's to lose the whole thing yet. I will say it's Utah's to lose the Pac-12 South though. And
then all they got to do is win one more game.
Okay, yeah, but it will most likely be against Washington, and we know what happened the last time Utah met Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. It was sadness.
Well, they're playing for Ty this year.
And missed
some
pass interference calls.
Some magic is going to happen this year.
Rose Bowl?
Oh, that would be so good.
That'd be fantastic. Okay, well, we're going to keep on the roll. We're going to keep on the high note with this next topic. This is something we haven't dipped our toes into yet here on Ute Dash, but the Red Rocks kicked off their season last night. Number 4 team in the nation, 10 national championships, never missed an NCAA championship until, even though last year was canceled, they were going to make it. They kicked off their season last night. They had the best of Utah meet. They beat BYU, SUU, and Utah State.
All the little brothers.
All the little brothers.
All the little brothers.
All of them. And Utah, Cole, I know you're not super familiar with gymnastics, but if you beat someone by 1 full point, that's pretty much beating them by 2 touchdowns. So,
or 15 to 20 points in basketball.
Yeah, yeah. We'll put this in all these different perspectives for people who like different sports. Yeah. So it's so.
What about curling? What's the?
I know nothing about curling, so I will pass on that one.
Okay.
In soccer, it's probably 2, maybe winning
3 goals.
3 goals, 3-0, maybe. Same with hockey, maybe 3.
Okay.
But,
sorry, curling fans. We don't get the covered.
Yeah, sorry, you curling fans who are watching Ute Dash tonight. But they kicked off. If you beat a team by a full point, that's huge. Also, Utah finished with the 3rd highest score in the country this week.
Wow,
that's insane.
To my understanding, they made a couple mistakes even last night.
Oh yeah, it was not okay. It was not a perfect meet, by any means, but it was the first time these girls had competed since March of last year. So. Yes, it was not this usual season. Our beam lineup, which finished last season ranked number 2 in the nation, there was 2 miscues. Lexi Birch and Emily LeBlanc both had some hip checks, which were kind of detrimental. Not detrimental. We still ended up winning. And Crystal Issa, love her, saved that ship as it was third spot. She came out, scored a 9-9, pulled us out of the ocean, and it was really fun. But and our bars lineup was our first lineup, our first event we competed on. And yes, there was a lot of 9.775s on that, but the judging was tight. In most gymnastics meets, the first rotation, the scoring is really tight. And it's going to get a little bit more relaxed as the meet goes on.
Is it because they're kind of feeling things out?
Yeah, judges are feeling things out. Gymnasts are feeling things out. To be completely honest, I don't think 2 out of the the girls who got 9.975s for Utah last night on bars, I don't think any of them deserved that because they were short on a couple of their handstands, but in my opinion, it was not enough to make that much of a deduction. But then again, I'm not a judge, and judging is so subjective in college gymnastics that it's whatever. But they looked really good. Overall, this Utah gymnastics team, when you finish with the 3rd highest score in the country on your first week, that's impressive because you're competing against we outscored 2 teams who are ranked above us in the preseason poll. We outscored Florida and we outscored LSU, and they are both ranked above us. So I wouldn't be surprised if Utah flips from number 4 to number 3 come tomorrow when the rankings come out, just based on how everyone else looked. I watched the LSU meet on Friday night. They did not look like the number 3 team in the nation. They had, I'm pretty sure almost every single girl fell off the beam for them, which is kind of huge. But whatever. I think this team has a lot of freshmen with a lot of potential. Lucy Stanhope took on 2 events. She was on floor and vault for the Red Rocks last night, and she looked good on both of them. I remember texting you, Cole, during her routine, because she does her floor routine to the Pink Panther theme song, and she's British, and I just love that. It's so
awesome.
It's so fun.
Well, I think that's the type of thing that, you know, might get people interested into gymnastics that necessarily aren't. You know, when you put that kind of, you know, personalization into a routine and bring out your own personality and, you know, something like that. I don't know, like that makes me want to watch it because I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And like floor routines are where the girls can show off their personalities the most. Like you get to choose your music, you get to choose your dance. Like Sydney Solosky is Utah's floor queen for a reason. Like she is so iconic on that event that like everyone knows it. Like she had an off night last night. Like she does this like iconic like double layout or a double where it's like this. I'll send you a photo of it or a gif of it later. It's really cool. But like she had like a major like landing issue last night and didn't score her best, but still like her routine is fun to watch. Jaden Rucker made her Red Rocks debut last night because she was out all of last season with a knee injury that she sustained prior to coming to Utah. Cammie Hall keeps growing from meet to meet. Last year was her first season back because she was out with an injury the year before. So I just think this whole team is looking really good, and they're in a really good position headed into next week. Next week, at this time next week, they will be competing against Oklahoma. This is to put this into equivalent for those football fans watching. This is like an Alabama Clemson game. These are 2 powerhouses meeting in the regular. Actually, so if you put it in a regular season context, this is like LSU Alabama like last year, like with that
Iron Bowl
or the Iron Bowl. Like any big 2 powerhouses that are meeting in the regular season, this is huge. And yes, in gymnastics, like your win-loss record matters, but it doesn't. What matters more is the scores you put up, because the way that rankings are developed is based on what you score. So the higher the score you put up, the better you are, like overall. But it's going to be huge next week for them to meet, because honestly, this is probably the first of 2 times that these 2 teams will meet this year. They will most likely meet in the national championship because they're both up at that level. But the last thing I want to say about the Red Rocks before I let Cole do his thing, and we're going to talk about the depressing of yesterday, is I have some hot takes. Cole, do you want to hear these hot takes?
Yes.
Okay. Abby Polson is going to get another 10 on beam this year. She is so good. I love her. I love watching her. She's magnificent. Crystal Issa is going to get a 10 on bars this season. I don't know what it is, but she's so magnificent. Her lines are beautiful. Everything looks great. She's going to get a 10 on bars this year. And then my last hot take. Sydney Solosky is finally going to get a 10 on the floor. Oh my gosh. This girl has been robbed so many times of a 10 on the floor. I think she's had like 2 or 3 career 9975s, which means one judge most likely gave her a 10 and the other one did not. She's going to get a 10. And I will be so happy when that happens, because she is fantastic and I love her.
Well, what's your expectation for this week, Utah and Oklahoma?
It's going to be close. I will say that. I just don't know how close. It's not going to be one team winning by a full point or not. I would love to see Utah win, but looking at what Oklahoma did today versus Arizona State, I'm not 100% sure that will happen. I would love it. I think it would be fantastic to go into Norman and win. I'm not sure. Utah's going to lose, but it's going to be a close one. It's not going to be like a blowout. It's probably going to be like both teams in the mid 197s, and I think that's my prediction. Well, what's your prediction?
I have no idea, but I will say this. I'd rather lose now and figure out what you can be better at, and then go to the national championship and beat them there. Obviously, if you can win both times, that's obviously what you want. But, if they're going to lose, better to lose now.
And like I said, win-losses aren't that huge in gymnastics. It's not like if you lose, you fall out of the top 5.
Right.
But also, I will say this is kind of a weird spot for Utah to be in because we don't have a schedule. The Pac-12 has not released a gymnastics schedule. We had Best of Utah last night. We have Oklahoma next Sunday. And then the only reason why I know this is because when I was writing about the Best of Utah meet, I went on Utah State's website, and we're supposed to close the season versus Utah State. So we don't know what's going to happen for the rest of February and all of March to the end because the Pac-12 won't release a schedule. So Larry Scott, if you are watching, please just give me the schedule. That's all I want at this point. But
were there fans in attendance last night?
There's like 1,700, which is nothing compared to the 15,000 that these girls are used to competing with. But, it was still good because they haven't competed with fans since March of last year. Like the Red Rock preview in December was literally just media. There was literally me and Leah Wodrowska of the Salt Lake Tribune. It was just the two of us.
Wow. Well, it's interesting. I'm surprised that the Pac-12 was okay with Utah competing in an atmosphere where there were fans.
And like the thing is here's the other thing is like the Big Ten and the SEC are doing conference-only schedules. So obviously the Pac-12 is not doing conference-only schedules. Otherwise, the Best of Utah would not happen. The Oklahoma meet would not happen. And the Utah State meet at the end of the season would not happen. So
interesting.
Whatever. I digress, Larry Scott. If you want to talk, hit me up on Twitter. Shoot me a DM.
We know you're watching.
We know you're watching, Larry. Just shoot me a DM and we can figure this out.
Right. Okay, well, we're going to end on a sad note, which I normally don't do, but it's really hard when Utah basketball is what we're talking about because they just haven't been good this year. And, there's a lot to be said. They're still a pretty young team. Their leader, Timmy Allen, is just a junior. And so there's a whole lot of things.
Team. It's such a
very
young
young
team.
It's very young. It's mostly sophomores and freshmen still. But there's so much to talk about from last night. So to begin, there's one thing that Utah men's basketball is consistent with, and it's being inconsistent. After a 46-point game against USC last week, they scored 43 in the first half against number 17 Oregon. I don't understand how that happens. Okay? But then they only scored 30 in the second half. So there's just this vast amount of inconsistency, and that's the thing they're most consistent about, is you never know what Utah team is going to show up. You don't know what players are going to show up. You don't know if Timmy Allen's going to play like he did in the first half last night, or if he's going to play like he did in the second half last night. He had 17 in the first half. I think he only had 6 in the second half. Never know. Moving on. Every single game is something different. Last night, the biggest issue was turnovers, as Utah committed 18 turnovers against Oregon. I believe going into last night's game, Utah actually had the best turnover rate in the Pac-12. So they were committing the least amount of turnovers. But last night, 18 against Oregon, which means 26.5% of their possessions ended in a turnover. Over a fourth of their possessions, they gave the ball back to the Ducks. And off of those, they allowed 25 points. So it's really difficult because against USC, it was an inability to hit open shots. Earlier in the season, it was an inability to rebound against BYU. And then last night, it's turnovers. So it's really hard to win games when you don't know what's the problem going to be tonight. Obviously, and Sammy, I'll let you get in here, but obviously, college basketball, sports in general, you're probably going to have a different outlier every single game. But hopefully you know what to expect that outlier to be. With Utah, it's a question mark every night.
Yeah, so the only thing is, like, I was watching the game via Twitter because this was happening at the same time as the gymnastics meet, is just I'll toss this question out to you and I'll let you get to it. But like, I know Larry changed up that lineup last night. So, and he went kind of on the smaller side. And in the first little bit, it looked like it was working. because you had that huge lead over Oregon, but then things started to deteriorate and it just didn't work as well. So do you think that Larry, because prior this week, Larry said like, oh yeah, we're going to play the guys who play the best or practice the best and look good in practice, or he said something along those lines. Do you think that he actually put the best 5 players out there last night?
Yeah, I do. I actually like that he switched things up. I think, Alfonso Plummer and Brennan Carlson, they're 2 good players, but I think, especially in basketball, you need to put it's not like football where you have the best 11 on the field on offense and defense. In basketball, roles are significant. For instance, you look at the Utah Jazz. Right now, Jordan Clarkson, who's the 6th man for the Jazz, he's coming off the bench and he's playing a very important role as the 6th man, providing bench scoring. But however, he's averaging more points a game than Bojan Bogdanovic, who starts. But it's more important that Clarkson come off the bench for the Jazz and score those points for the bench instead of being in the starting lineup. Because if you were to switch those, we might not get as much bench production, and we fall behind when our bench is on the floor, opposed to having Clarkson run that unit. So it's with basketball, it's really important that you have the right guy in the right role. And I think moving Alfonso to the bench was wise, because then you don't fall apart scoring wise when the bench comes on. And as well, I think it was smart to put Carlson on the bench. I think that he is
he has a lot of potential. He has the potential to be a really good basketball player for Utah, but he just lacks the weight and the size. He gets body bagged against a lot of these guys because
he's a 7-footer, but he's a twig.
And I think I know you and I have talked about this like before, but I think he is one of the people that really would have benefited from a true natural off season, because he would have had time to hit the gym and bulk up and do all these things. But with COVID and stuff, it really messed up his schedule and his production. Right. And I think if he can bulk up, he will be a really good player for this Utah team. But until he bulks up, it's wise to not have him a starter, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and I agree with that. I just think he's too small. This is a guy that's not even like toned. There's guys that play basketball that their body type is they're really thin. They're tall and thin, but they can be toned. He's not even toned. This kid is just bone. That's really it, skin and bone. And so he gets pushed around, and that's just not what you need. So I do like that he switched it up. Larson was great coming into the starting lineup. He played extremely well, finished with 15 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, and he actually was the only Utah player to finish with a positive +/-+3. And I think he was 3 for 3 from 3-point range. So he was great. I think, you may want to look at benching Ryland Jones, but I'll get into that in a second. It's just, I will say I do like the change. I don't know if it's going to remain that way. I don't know if he just went small because Oregon went small. But Oregon figured it out in the second half. They actually kind of took their foot off the gas as far as chucking tons and tons of 3-pointers. They only scored 8 points in the paint in the first half, opposed to 20 in the second half. And they shot much better from the floor. So basketball is tough. It's getting the right starting lineup. It's getting the right role players. It's making adjustments at halftime and constantly throughout the game. And I think a little bit last night, Coach K may not have made the right adjustments at halftime and into the second half. So let me just finish here with what I want to talk about with Ryland Jones. I think Coach K should experiment with taking Ryland Jones out of the starting lineup. He looks lost on the floor at times. He's not playing aggressive. I feel like he kind of just roams the floor and he lets Timmy Allen do his thing, Alfonso Plummer do his thing. Everybody else, I feel like when he's out on the floor, it's almost like Utah's playing with 4 guys. and he's only averaging 6.8 points per game this season. It's unacceptable as a starting point guard.
Did he not score his first points until like the last 3 minutes of the game?
Yep. Okay. He was 0 for 3, and then he had 2 baskets, I believe, in the last few minutes. So
that's not good.
The Utah now 4-4, 1-3 in the conference. They face an 8-3 Colorado, 8-3 Stanford, 6-7 Cal. If Utah can go 2-1, that's fantastic. But realistically, I see 1-2. And I think even Cal's going to be a battle. It could be an 0-3 week.
It could, because you have Stanford has Zaire on their team, and they're
4-1 in the conference.
Yeah, he's insane. And then
Colorado
always gets the best of us. It's just kind of depressing. I thought Cal was going to be like an easy team to beat this year. No.
They're 1-5 in the conference, but Utah's 1-3. They've just played more games. So that's Utah's victory, and I'm not even going to say they're going to win that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough week for Utah basketball.
You never know what you're going to get.
It also might be a little bit of a rough week for Utah women's basketball because they take on Cal and Stanford as well. And Stanford's the number 1 team in the nation. So
that's the one thing Utah athletics really needs to work on, I think, is, you have an elite football program, elite gymnastics, elite skiing, quite a few elite programs, but your basketball just continues to bleed.
Lynn Roberts is a really good coach. Yeah. I will give her that. But we don't have enough time to delve into Larry Krystkowiak. We could do a whole episode on just Larry Krystkowiak. But with that, we have to bid adieu this week. Thank you again for watching Ute Dash. As always, we are writing columns now through Sports Pac-12. You can find them on their website at Sports Pac-12. Also on our website, _sports.tv. While you're on your phone and on social media, be sure to follow Sports Pac-12 at Sports Pac-12 on Twitter, and then follow us at _sports.tv on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Cole and I next Sunday. We'll see. Utah versus Oklahoma gymnastics. Rough week coming up for men's basketball. But next time we see you guys, we'll talk some more Utes. So, Cole, what do we do? As always, we give them a
go Utes, guys.
Go Utes, guys.